In the 1930s, in Depression-era Cleveland, a gruesome series of events began in the impoverished Kingsbury run. One morning, boys playing discovered the headless and limbless torso of a man. The cuts were disturbingly clean, almost surgical. There was no blood at the scene. The body had been meticulously cleaned, laid out like a macabre display. This was the terrifying dawn of a nightmare orchestrated by a single madman, known only as the Mad Butcher of Kingsbury Run, an unsolved horror that continues to echo through history. 1930s America was gripped by the Great Depression. Cleveland, an industrial city, was no exception. Unemployment soared and social unrest was rampant. The area around Kingsbury Run in particular had become a hobo jungle, a transient community where day laborers, vagrants, and those cast aside by society gathered. Their identities were often unknown, their social ties tenuous, meaning their disappearance might go unnoticed. The dark underbelly of this era and this place tragically became the stage for a series of horrific murders. On September 23, 1935, the torso of Edward Andrassy was found in Kingsbury Run, initiating a terrifying chain of events. Nearby, the body of another unidentified man, John Doe I, was discovered. Both victims were decapitated, dismembered, and disemboweled. Furthermore, a lime-like chemical had been applied to the bodies, making the skin red, tough, and leathery. The bodies had been drained of blood, treated like butchered animals. Within days of the initial discovery, Cleveland was plunged into a nightmare of serial murder. On January 26, 1936, the horror spread beyond Kingsbury Run. The body of Florence Palillo was found in a basket on East 20th Street in downtown Cleveland, her head and limbs removed. Then, on June 5, the torso of John Doe II, known as the Tattooed Man due to his distinctive tattoos, was discovered by railroad tracks. The faces of the victims remained unknown. Only a few were ever identified. Behind these brutal acts lay the fragile lives of those living on society's margins. The investigation spiraled into confusion, and public anxiety intensified. In 1935, the legendary investigator Eliot Ness, who brought down Al Capone, took office as Cleveland's safety director. He showed an unusual interest in these gruesome murders, personally leading the investigation. However, he faced unprecedented difficulties. Victims were always decapitated and dismembered, making identification nearly impossible. The killer operated with surgical precision, seemingly possessing anatomical knowledge. The abnormal methods, including draining blood and chemical treatment, baffled investigators and cast a deep shadow over Ness's determined pursuit. As the investigation progressed, one man was arrested, Frank Dolezal, 52. He had temporarily lived with one of the victims, Florence Palillo, and connections to other victims also emerged. After intense police interrogation, Dolezal reportedly confessed to Palillo's murder. However, he later recanted, claiming he had been tortured. On August 24, 1939, Dolezal was found hanged in his cell at the Cuyahoga County Jail with multiple broken ribs. Officially ruled a suicide, his death left many unanswered questions, and no conclusive evidence linked him as the true killer. Another strong suspect emerged from the elite class, Dr. Francis Sweeney. He was a wealthy physician with anatomical knowledge and access to chemicals. Even more surprisingly, Sweeney had served in the same military unit as Eliot Ness during World War I. Ness reportedly became personally convinced that Sweeney was the killer.
However, Sweeney had a history of mental illness and was institutionalized multiple times during the period of the murders. His social standing and influence also posed significant obstacles to the investigation.
Elliot Ness was convinced Sweeney was the culprit, but he couldn't find conclusive evidence. Sweeney underwent multiple polygraph tests and passed them all, which might reflect the limitations of polygraph technology at the time. It is also said that Sweeney sent Ness anonymous postcards, seemingly mocking him. Despite the killer's methods perfectly matching Sweeney's expertise, his social background and the lack of direct evidence thwarted the pursuit of justice. Ness's conviction would forever remain in the realm of speculation.
In August 1938, Elliot Ness made a bold decision. He ordered a massive raid, burning down the Kingsbury run shantytowns to clear them out. Police officers poured oil, and the wooden shacks were engulfed in flames in an instant. This drastic measure aimed to destroy a hotbed of crime, but also incinerated a mountain of potential evidence. After this hobo jungle raid, the torso murders in Cleveland abruptly ceased. However, this did not mean the killer had been apprehended.
After 1938, the torso murders in Cleveland subsided, yet the killer was never caught, and the case remains officially unsolved. Elliot Ness obsessed over this case until his later years, but never identified the true culprit. This unsolved mystery cast an indelible shadow over his otherwise brilliant career. The victims' families never found the truth, and the citizens of Cleveland were left unsure whether the nightmare of the Mad Butcher of Kingsbury Run had truly ended or was merely dormant. This case became an enduring scar on society. The true identity of the Mad Butcher of Kingsbury Run remains a mystery to this day. This officially unsolved case is deeply etched in history as a symbol of unsigned justice. However, the story isn't over. In 2024, the DNA Doe Project began exhuming victims and employing cutting-edge investigative genetic genealogy to identify them. Will they finally restore the lost faces and, at last, expose the shadow of the butcher lurking behind them? This unsolved nightmare questions us: what is truth, and when will justice finally arrive? What do you think about this case?